Fourth graders, it's Mrs. Mundorf here with a review of your Day 4 lesson for science and your new science lesson for today. For our Energy of Light Day 4, we were studying the concept of refraction. Let's look at the experiment that you did during the last set of lesson plans. With the subject of how does light travel, the objective for Day 4's lesson was to observe the bending of light by refraction. Keyword, refraction. And the materials you needed were the 2 clear cups, the 2 pencils, and water. The steps in that experiment were to 1, fill 1 plastic cup half full of water and leave the other cup empty. 2, place a pencil in the cup with water and another pencil in the cup without water. 3, observe the pencils from different angles. Be sure that for one of the angles, you look at the pencil with your eyes at the water level. What do you see when you look at the cups from different angles? Here are pictures I took when I performed this experiment at home. How do these pictures compare with what you saw at your house? You were asked to compare the pencil in the empty cup and the pencil in the cup of water. What did you see when your eye was at water level? Here's a picture that shows you how you were supposed to view the cup at water level. As I said in my instruction video, I felt that you could see what was happening in the experiment better with a shorter pencil. Here are some images that I took during my experiment at home. Here are some additional photos I took of images during my experiment of the pencil in the cup of water. After you looked at your 2 sets of cups, of the pencil in the empty cup and the pencil in the water cup, you were supposed to draw a view of what you saw when you looked at the pencil in the cup of water and what you saw with the pencil in the empty cup. Here's an example of what you may have drawn. The first picture of the pencil in the empty cup, the pencil should not have looked any different. In the second picture of your pencil in a cup with water, here are 2 examples of what your picture may have looked like. After you drew your 2 pictures, you were then supposed to write down your observations of what you saw. The pencil in the cup without water does not look different. The pencil in the cup with water looked like it was broken. It looked slightly larger and at a slightly different angle below the water. I wrote slightly larger in blue so that it would draw your attention to the pencil. In the image I'm providing on this slide, look at the pencil above the water and how wide it is. Then look at the pencil below the water and how wide it is. I drew the line with blue to show you that the pencil looked wider or slightly larger below the water. I then added a line on the pencil to show what it looked like above the water and how the pencil appeared to bend at a different angle below the water. As you can see, the pencil does not look like a straight line as it does in the cup without water. The next question asks, what causes the pencil to look different? The simple answer is the water caused the pencil to look different. Because when you think about the 2 cups, the difference between the 2 cups was that 1 cup had water and 1 did not, and that the pencil in the cup of water looked different than the pencil in the cup without water. Number 7 says this strange effect occurs because light is bent when it leaves the water and goes into the air. What is this type of bending light called? And the answer is this type of bending of light is called refraction. The next step in this lesson plan was to watch a video on study jams called Light Absorption, Reflection, and Refraction. After you watch the video, you are supposed to click on the button that said Test Yourself to see how well you understand how light travels. The last part of Energy of Light Day 4 was to read 2 different reading passages and highlight the essential information. For the first passage, the path of light reflection, I highlighted a luminous object produces its own light. Light travels in straight rays from a source to an object. The light may be reflected or bounced. When the reflected light gets into our eyes, this allows us to see the object. When light strikes a mirror or other smooth, shiny surface, light is reflected. The next passage was on the path of light, refraction. I highlighted, light may bend when it travels from one medium, water or air, to another. This is called refraction. The reason for the refraction of light is that light travels at different speeds in different mediums. As light rays go through water and then go into the air, they bend because they travel faster in air than in water. Information that you just read helps you understand what we studied in last week's experiments. Now we're going to look at energy of light, day 5. What happens when light meets matter? Think about it. Why can't light go through a wall? Can light go through anything? Pause the video and answer these questions in your mind. The second set of questions asks, why does a road get too hot to walk on with your bare feet? Why is the sand hot to walk on at the beach? Does light ever hurt your eyes when you are on the ocean? Why might that be? Pause the video and think about your answers. The objective for today's lesson is to observe light as it is either transmitted, reflected, or absorbed by matter. Keywords: reflect, absorb, and transmit. The materials you need for today's experiment. You need a flashlight and the following objects. You need plastic wrap, also known as saran wrap. If you don't have plastic wrap, you could use something like a sandwich bag, but it just needs to be clear. You need a tissue. If you don't have tissues, you could use some toilet paper. You need a piece of cardboard. Again, we have cardboard all over our house. You'd use a cereal box, a cracker box, or something from a packaging box. And you need a pencil, a cup of water. You need a paper cup. Have a paper cup, you could use a paper plate. Then you need wax paper. If you don't have wax paper, I think maybe a plastic bag from the grocery store might work similar. You need a book. You could use a picture book, a novel, a magazine. You need a mirror. I'm just using the compact mirror I used the other day. You need your hand. You need aluminum foil. And the last item you need for today's experiment is a sheet of notebook paper. If you do not have these materials, you can substitute materials you do have or make the best predictions possible to answer the experiment questions. The first step in the experiment is to gather the objects listed under materials. Again, if you do not have one of the materials listed, pick another object to test. 2, predict what you think will happen to the light from a flashlight when you shine it from behind each of the materials. Will all of the light pass through the object? That means you can clearly see the light from the flashlight on the other side. Will some of the light pass through the object, where you'll see some of the light from the flashlight? Or will none of the light pass through the object? Will the light be blocked or reflected? Step 3 says, type your predictions on the observation chart on the next slide or on a piece of paper. Here's the observation chart I've included with this lesson. Again, I have the materials listed that I'm using. Now I'm going to fill out the middle column. In the middle column, you will simply write that some of the light will shine through, all of the light will shine through, none of the light will shine through. Will some of the light be reflected? What do you think will happen with each material? Again, record that in the middle column for each object. Now that you've made your predictions, you're going to test each material with a flashlight. You're going to shine the flashlight on one side of the material and look at the other side. You need to observe what happens to the light when it strikes the material. So you're going to turn your flashlight on, take your material, shine the flashlight at it, and look at the other side to see what happens to the light. After you test the materials, you're going to go back to your observation chart and record your results. I recommend recording your results as you test each material so you do not forget what you were testing at the beginning of the experiment and you forget it by the end. Now that you tested these materials, you've discovered whether the light was transmitted, reflected, or absorbed. You're going to click this link and go to Maggie's Science Connection and take notes on the words below. Then complete the chart. The first step you need to do is to write the definition for transmit, reflect, and absorb. The next step is to write what happens to light when it is transmitted, when it is reflected, and when is it absorbed. And the last column asks you to list an example. Here, you're going to write an object that transmitted the light. In the next box, an object that reflected the light. And in the third example box, an object that absorbed the light. Now that you know more about transmission, reflection, and absorption of light, you're going to create a new chart classifying the materials based on the actual results, or your third column of this activity. You're going to type the materials from this experiment in the correct column below, or you can write it on a sheet of paper. For materials that transmitted light, make sure you separate them by if all the light was transmitted or if some of the light was transmitted. This is the last step for today's lesson. We're going to continue investigating these materials tomorrow.